Morning, everybody. I want to thank you for joining today's Small Business Boot Camp. I'm Robert Theobald, Small Business Ombudsman and Vice President of Small Business Services at the Arizona Commerce Authority, and we're glad to have you with us today. As we like to do, please post up in the chat where you're tuning in from. We like to see where our different attendees are from throughout the state. So we see we got Tucson already, we got Levine, Cave Creek. Wendy is giving the presentation shortly. Tucson, Wilcox, Rio Rico, Avondale, Oro Valley, more Tucson, Sedona, Scottsdale, Casa Grande, Apache Junction, Kingman. All right, again, if you're just joining, please post in the chat where you're tuning in from. We like to see where all of our participants are from. Northeast Phoenix. Excellent. So let's go ahead and jump in. For those that are new to the boot camp, we like to start by thanking all of our community partners. We could not do these webinars without those partners, without their time, their effort, and their expertise. They willingly give back to help small businesses, and we are very grateful for them. Also, those that are new to the boot camp, it is designed to help small businesses prepare, plan, and grow. And not only is it our Tuesday morning workshops that we do nearly every Tuesday. I say nearly every Tuesday because we'll talk about next week as an example. But we have our Tuesday workshops, or webinars. We also do some hands-on and virtual workshops and lunch and learns throughout the year to help support small businesses throughout the state. One of the great pieces of the boot camp is our content library. We like to record all of our sessions, our webinars, virtual sessions, and virtual workshops, and we post those recordings in the content library along with the slide decks from our presenters. So business owners that can't make it at 9 a.m. or those that made it and want to refresh can go back, watch the video, review the slide deck, and better understand the information. So it's an amazing resource. There's well over 300, close to 360 recorded webinars in the content library. The ACA also has a number of other programs to support small businesses. You can find these and more at the Arizona Commerce Authority website under programs. There's a lot of great information there, so check it out. One of the programs we like to highlight, you can scan the QR code to take you right there, is the Small Business Checklist. This is a great resource for entrepreneurs that are looking to start their business or expand their business into new areas to identify the commonly requested licensing, registration, and compliance requirements at the local, state, and federal level. There's also a lot of other information that's part of this checklist to help support small businesses that are getting started and growing. Some quick updates we all want to share. Tonight is the Downtown Phoenix Small Business Innovation Summit, sponsored by the ASU Edson E&I Institute in the city of Phoenix. Tonight's the second session, and then the final session is July 30th with some pitches. So check that out. It's a great program put on by ASU. And I know tonight they're going to have some lenders there talking about funding your small business. And then the Arizona Local First Arizona does the Arizona Rural Policy Forum. That's coming up in August. And it's a great event for both business and community leaders. So take a look at it. So some upcoming sessions, as you'll note, that our next session after today is July 9th. So when I said that we do nearly every Tuesday, we do skip some Tuesdays based on the holidays and when they fall. And so next week is the Independence Day holiday, and a lot of people will be out traveling and gone for the week. So we want to take that week off and let everybody enjoy the Independence Day holiday week. So we will start back on July 9th. We've got a great session on building a championship team. And then we jump into mastering your message, and then followed by navigating essential legal documents. So we've got some great sessions lined up and even more beyond that. but we're all here for today's session. So we're going to jump right in and introduce our speaker. Today we have Wendy Jameson. She's the founder and president of Potentiate, and she's been around a lot of startups. She's worked with the ACA for more than a decade on different programs, and she is extremely knowledgeable in many different areas. So we're excited to have her with us, and today she's going to talk about AI, and she's got a great presentation prepared for us. So Wendy, it is all yours. I'm going to go ahead, stop sharing, and give the time to you to share. And real quick, I want to remind everybody that for questions, please use the Q&A box that you'll find at the bottom of your screen. We like to separate the questions out of it so they're not in the chat, because they can get lost in the chat. We want to be able to try to answer those questions. And if we can't answer them in the time we have today, we can get those answers sent to you as well. So, Wendy, it is all yours.
All right. Thank you, Robert. Everyone, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me share my screen. Hang tight. Okay.
We see the PowerPoint with the slides on the side. There we go. We're all good now.
All right, great, thanks. All right, welcome. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Demystifying AI, a small business owner's guide. I am Wendy. My company is Potentiate, been around since 2001, off and on, doing a lot of different things with startups in between. You can reach me through LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out. My company Potentiate there, and you can use the QR code to find me. I introduced this slide with that image. That's an image that I created using MS Designer, so Microsoft Designer AI. I was actually quite proud of myself for creating that because I'm not really a creator, so that was unusual for me. So let's get started. Just quickly about me, Robert gave a nice little intro, but what I do is artificial intelligence for business intelligence. So my real expertise is go-to-market strategies, or really market strategy and competitive positioning. My background is heavy marketing, and I'm a marriage and family therapist by training, believe it or not. And I use that psychology in a lot of the work that I do. I've been in the C-suite 4 different times, but I'm also an award-winning serial entrepreneur, having won the Arizona Innovation Challenge grant in 2011 with my company Colnatech, which was a nanotechnology sensor manufacturing company that I exited in 2017. But I've been in Metro Phoenix since 1997, so I'm an OG. I've been around a long time. I feel like I've seen everything change pretty dramatically, including the Commerce Authority going from the Department of Commerce to the Commerce Authority in 2011. And I like to call myself a sporty nerd. I'm very athletic, like to get out into the outdoors. I have 2 sons, love big dogs, but I also read research papers for breakfast. So I'm really interested now in AI and have been pursuing it for about 1.5 years. I put these 2 photos up to give you a sense of what AI can do with imagery today. This, you see at the top, the original photo was taken, at Christmas time some time ago. And I went to a company called Aragon.ai, which you'll see their logo and a QR code at the bottom if you want to do a headshot for yourself or for your team. But you can see with about 14 or 15 photos, I was able to create that AI generated headshot. Which a little bit of playing, but I think it's just this was done in October, and it's even better today. So you can, I suggest, check it out, try it out for yourself. It was only like $40, right? So instead of doing a whole photo shoot, which included hair and makeup and a number of clothing changes, I was able to create something that was actually usable. So let me tell you a little bit about my AI journey before we get started deep into it. I think it's helpful to understand it's not a straight and narrow path. I think for a lot of us, it's about taking a lot of different paths. I started by learning about DALL-E, which I thought at the time they called Dolly, back in October of 22. And I was like, wait, that's kind of cool. How do you do that? I'd never heard of anything like this. I kind of, tossed it aside for a while. But then in December, I was working for a new company and my outside marketing team was unavailable, but I needed to get an article written. And so the head of marketing, my outsourced company said, just try ChatGPT. I input a little bit. I had no idea even what it was. He had to explain to me. I was like, how do I use it? He said, just go type something in, you'll figure it out. And oh my God, I was blown away. I started, over time, then I started hearing stories that winter about how people were using it. So for example, a dog's veterinary reports that a man had reported that his dog had gotten these blood tests. They didn't know what was wrong with him. So he uploaded the blood tests into ChatGPT and got a diagnosis, took it to his vet, and the vet was blown away. So it had, even a year ago or a year and a half ago, it had pretty amazing capabilities. So I decided to take a course. I wanted to learn. I saw Udemy, which it's like Coursera, and they offer courses. I took an 8-hour course. I will say I started on it, but I couldn't stay focused because I just wanted to play with the tool. As soon as the instructor gave me some ideas on what I could do, I wanted to go try it. And then by spring, I was done with working with that company and I was looking for jobs. So I started using one of the AIs, the LLMs, called Anthropic's Claude. Anthropic's the company, Claude is the tool. I used it for writing job applications. I would just, it's for the cover letters. So I would copy the job application description, upload it into Claude and say, and I had already uploaded into it my resume, and I was able to say, just write a cover letter. It wasn't perfect, but man, it was so much faster. So that worked really well. I wasn't really sure how else to use it. So I signed up for some newsletters. I wanted to see anything I could get my hands on to learn about how it was and how to use it. I even considered taking an executive education course from Kellogg, Wharton, or Stanford, but there was a $20,000 price tag that made me pause. So I thought I needed to know Python. So I started taking Python courses, but I quickly learned you don't need to have Python. So all I had to do was type. By last September, I had heard about an AI meetup that at Venture Cafe Phoenix. And if you haven't heard of Venture Cafe Phoenix, I highly recommend going. But this was a group of just AI enthusiasts who would talk about the news. And the news was changing rapidly. I was starting to feel a bit panicky, a bit like this photo, like, which direction do I go? And there were a lot of builders, a lot of coders there, but it was great for news about the tools. And the news, as I said, was moving rapidly. There were just too many products to keep up. And I had a business problem in mind, so I kept looking at products that could help me solve it. By December, I gave up on my job search and instead started thinking seriously about how I could really dive deep. I landed on this school called Section, which for $1,000 and a year-long membership, I could take any course in AI I wanted. Some of that material you're going to see today. And now I've taken more than 15 courses. I have a bunch more to go. I feel like I'm constantly learning, but it's a winding path. But for me, it's a lot of fun. So this is where you are today. I'm assuming you're a curious newbie and are considering, how do I get to where I'm using it daily and more of a master at AI. You start with this kind of wow factor, and then you're like, wait, what? There's so much language. If you're not a coder, I don't write code. I'm not a builder. I have a technology background, but not a technical background. So it's a lot of learning the language. I'm going to walk you through some of these different things. I'm going to present you with a lot of data, with a lot of slides, and I know I talk fast, so hopefully I won't go too fast for you. But we'll get some overall basics on what it is, and we'll start you on that path so that you and hopefully understand a bit more. So today's agenda, I will give you an AI overview. I'm gonna fire hose blast you with a lot of information, but just touch on it so that will encourage you. I hope it will encourage you to explore further. Talk about how you should use generative AI, why you should use it, how I talk to my co-pilots, because I consider them a co-intelligence. I work with them, human and machine. and how to just briefly how to set up your AI workspace, some suggestions for getting started, and give you some tips on prompting, which is how you interact with the AI. So overall, what is AI? We know it's artificial intelligence, right? But it encompasses a lot of different technologies, from computer vision, machine learning, to natural language processing. But basically, it's just systems that can perform tasks that historically required human intelligence. What it's not is sentience, at least not yet. There is some concern about that. We'll talk about some of those. But AI encompasses a lot of those technologies, but it doesn't mean they're sentient. You still have to interact with those with your technology. An LLM, which you may have heard, is a large language model. So I love this image on the left because it gives this actually came from a video, which you can see, Generative AI in a Nutshell by Henrik Nyberg. It's a 17-minute video that I have pinned at my LinkedIn page because it is so good at explaining, giving a great walkthrough explainer on what AI is, what generative AI is, and so forth. But as you can see, AI encompasses all those things. Generative AI is a subset of AI. LLMs are a further subset, and ChatGPT is an example of an LLM. Now, maybe you've heard of these things, but I'm giving you the basics so that you can have just a high-level understanding for those of you who aren't aware of what these things are. How LLMs work, they're pre-trained. So think of it as there's a giant brain, and it's scraped the entire web for information. So it's a ginormous corpus of data, which trained the model. And as you can imagine, there are some potential issues with using data from everywhere on the internet, from legal to bias, and so forth. Fine-tuning refers to training with specific data sets. So when you interact with your LLM, you will be fine-tuning it per se. So it's taking maybe your Excel data or your images or your PowerPoints or whatever data you have, uploading it into the model, and then that fine-tunes it more specifically to what is important to you. This is the real, I think, one of the superpowers. To give you a sense of what models are, I think this is a great slide to explain the key ones that you will interact with. And I highly recommend, if you haven't started playing with it, that you start with OpenAI and ChatGPT 4. It's now 4.0 or 4 Omni. It's a very highly capable model. When I started, we were looking at 3.5. It had a lot more mistakes. The other one is Anthropic's Claude. So OpenAI and Anthropic are the companies that have built these models. I'll tell you a little bit more about these as we get into it, but these are the ones you're primarily going to stick to. The ecosystems, these are also models, Gemini and Copilot. I call it an ecosystem because Google has its suite of services, Google Slides, Google Docs, and Microsoft has its suite of Office products as well, from Word to PowerPoint and so forth. And they're baked in. They have taken their LLMs and baked them into their suite of products. It's not perfect yet, but it's getting better. And it's the worst it will ever be. The niche players refers to some, actually one of my favorites, like Perplexity for search. It's a generative search engine. So with Gemini has been trying to do this, or Google's been trying to do this with their Gemini, because they know that Perplexity is coming along, and they call Perplexity the Google killer for a reason. It, instead of like, what you're familiar with when you Google something is you get a list of links, right? And then you have to go visit the links, read the articles, and then synthesize the data yourself. Well, Perplexity does that for you. It goes and searches the web and creates it generates a summary for you on data. Again, some of these have some issues. We'll talk about that in a minute. Quora put out one called Poe, which uses all of the models at the free version. Each one of these is available both free and paid. The paid versions start at $20. And so Quora just calls on all the free ones. Inflection has created one called Pi, which is for therapy. It's been fine-tuned to act like a therapist. I've used it. It actually works pretty well. And then there's open source, which Meta, Facebook, and so forth. Open source is more complicated, so we're not going to talk too much about that, but just know that there are open source models. Apple's using some, partnering with some of these other companies and so forth. So if I go into that, it'll take way too long. So some of the capabilities of these, you can see on that left, that's actually a screenshot from one of my conversations. You just simply type in it. It's a natural language interface. It's just like a conversation, and it spits out information that's just like it's talking to you. It can understand and interpret in a conversational manner. And it has contextual memory. So it can remember things for you across conversations or inside of conversations. So like in that particular window on the left, there are multiple questions that I'm asking, and it's giving me multiple answers. And I can even ask it to ask me questions, but it can remember all of that and give and maintain a fairly accurate response. It's capable of really great factual inquiries. So it can give you really detailed explanations. This particular one on the left is, I mean, this is a really long chat window. And in fact, I even used it, I used ChatGPT to evaluate this particular presentation. Some applications include, and I'm going to provide you with a bunch more of these, but it's use it for information retrieval, as we talked about, any kind of definitions. Perplexity is great for searching on those kinds of things, just asking a question, any kind of question on work or personal. And in personal productivity, it can act as a virtual assistant, doing basically anything a virtual assistant can do. And what a lot of people are using it for, which is writing and editing support, including, drafting emails, crafting reports, and editing documents. Some common use cases include, which you may be familiar with, improving customer experiences. So chatbots, a number of chatbots have been developed, and I think that's the first place that people are looking at is in customer experiences to enhance customer satisfaction, but also leveraging data-driven insights. You can upload an Excel spreadsheet. You can generate code. You can, it's great for analyzing data to derive insights. For example, I used it recently to upload, I actually asked Perplexity to go find a corporate report for me, a specific corporate report on a company, and to provide me with a key summary and some bullet points of things that I needed to know, the insights from this corporate report about what the company was focusing on. And it's great at automating tasks. We think of workflows. So we'll talk more about this as well, but it can help streamline repetitive tasks. Its true competitive advantages are really around enhancing productivity. So as I said, streamlining workflows, producing documents really quickly, or fostering innovation. I use it heavily for this. Brainstorm a few ideas, walk me through some scenarios. So it can give you ideas. You can give it some ideas and ask it to generate even more ideas for you, or to ask it to think like someone else, and it will generate even more ideas outside the box. And it's great at improving your decision making. It will give those insights and recommendations. This again is how I, as a consultant, primarily use it, is in improving my decision making or in giving me strategic insights. But there are risks. There are things you need to consider. Data privacy is a concern. The model builders like OpenAI and Anthropic are pretty opaque about how they use our data, how the models are trained. So it's important. There are ways to mitigate this, and I'll show you one. But I always recommend remove any personally identifying information, particularly if you're in a regulated industry. Just scrub your data as best you can, or be careful. Learn a little bit more about the privacy considerations. And it does hallucinate. That's hallucinating is when it just confidently provides you with factually incorrect. Recently, I was at Perplexity and it had provided me with a citation. I clicked the link. I'm like, and I said to it, this isn't the company I'm talking about. And it said, oh, you're right. Let me go find you the correct link. So it wants to please you, but it will sometimes give you incorrect information. So that's why it's still necessary to have a human in the loop. And there are ethical considerations. As I mentioned, there are biases. If it's been trained on the entire corpus of the internet, you can imagine what it's hearing at Reddit or at Twitter X. So we're aware that it has those biases, and the model builders are trying to mitigate that to some extent, but it still exists. So in summary, you have a new teammate with superpowers that knows everything, like Vishnu. It can do, this is Vishnu, by the way, and I generated this image using AI. It can do basically everything. It's logical, analytical, creative, never gets tired, and it's $20 a month. If you want to, which I have because I compare one, I'll build with one and then I'll test with another. It's $40 a month to have an intern. So you can see why this is bringing on additional concerns in the workforce, which I'll talk about. And your teammate has flaws. So imagine a teammate who has those hallucinations. It's overconfident, it can be biased, and it's eager to please. And more importantly, it might perform great one day and then terrible on the next. And things are changing very rapidly. So the landscape for AI, I mean, I'm constantly surprised. Just the other day, I was surprised by the data controls and data limits. You just don't know because it's changing so frequently. But what makes it special to us is that it feels so real. It feels like a human. It remembers us. It's like a good friend. It's surprisingly adept, and it has personality. And I'm telling you, I feel that personality. I have, some say don't anthropomorphize. I suggest that you do it for good reason. It's easier to communicate with, but it does feel like it has emotions, which, perhaps is a cautionary tale, but it makes it really special. That's what makes this different from all the other AI, like predictive analytics, that you've been seeing in other, any kind of algorithm that you've seen before. It's like magic. You put text in, and today they're multimodal, so you can put a video or text or a spreadsheet or a PDF, pass it through the LLM, and you get a text or video or image response. It just feels very natural. Two ways to look at it about getting value. So I'm going to present you with a couple of different models because we all think a little differently. But think of it as it can do the human power, or it can do the brain power, or both. And I use it in both. You can get value by replacing lots of small repetitive tasks. That's just the human power of, write this document, build this image, so forth, versus brain power, which is augmenting your own brain. Maybe like for me, as a consultant, I'm not trained by Wharton, but maybe I want to use a Wharton professor's voice, or I will sometimes ask it to help me think like a McKinsey consultant and produce a go-to-market plan, for example. And then the human power would be it creates the plan. It does the writing, a lot of the writing for me. It will even think through the writing and help me think through each of the questions. But as I said, it's not just about writing better emails, right? When asked at Section, this is the company that trained me, one of the companies that trained me back in March, they asked, how are people using it today? How are you using it? And you can see a lot of us using it as a thought partner for brainstorming, for feedback, for a second opinion, even a medical second opinion or a legal second opinion, recognizing that it has some limitations, or as a creator of anything, any kind of content, code, for example. A lot of us are using it as an assistant and as a researcher for analyzing data and gaining insights. Researcher to me kind of is a couple of different things. It combines a number of these together. And the way that I think about it, I think this is a great model for looking at it as my assistant, as my creator, or as my strategist. I'm here, I add this here so that you can see a few other sample use cases, like summarizing and synthesizing content, generating reports and executive summaries, taking notes. Maybe some of you have, I don't know if anybody on this call has an autopilot, but it can act as a note taker for you, and it listens and then types it all out for you. or you can use it on your own phone, talk into it, and it will just capture all of your thoughts that you spoke into a written document that you can then upload and ask for insights or help me create a PowerPoint around something. It's great at analyzing. So as creator, I use it to generate LinkedIn posts. I can't talk. Generate LinkedIn posts in your voice. If you have a lot of documents that you've written, if you write a lot of content, upload it and ask it to write a LinkedIn post, a LinkedIn article, a LinkedIn blog, have it create an image for you. I do this actually pretty frequently. Drafting briefs, drafting employee reviews. That was one I had never heard of until recently. Or creating a presentation. It doesn't, like ChatGPT in particular, can't create necessarily, it can create a PowerPoint presentation, but it's not going to be perfect. It's just going to be some basic slides. It's not that capable yet, unless you're in Microsoft. As a strategist, again, this is how I primarily use it. Thinking through complex plans, critiquing decisions. So going through scenario planning or role playing a conversation, maybe interview, have it practice interview for you, or giving you feedback. But the truth is that the way that I actually talk to and anthropomorphize my co-pilot is in these three ways. So I'm the black dot there, and I talk to it directing like my employee. So you see the relationship is me talking to a subordinate. I'm telling it what to do. And I actually, when I do this, I think about myself talking to that employee, and that's what I type in. So exactly what I would say to an employee, I give it some context, this is what I want, and I ask it to complete a task. Or I often will use it as my partner, collaborating with it. Let's do this together. So maybe what do you think of this? Or let's write this, or let's evaluate this together. Or as an expert. I love to use it as an expert where I'm learning, and the relationship is it's teaching me. Be that Wharton professor, be that NYU Stern professor, and help me understand what is bioinformatics and so forth. So let's talk a little bit about how it's affecting the workplace, as I alluded to earlier. This is there's a lot of data out there. There are a lot of different companies that are evaluating how it's being used, the value of its use. And this is one from Workera, from Leader's Guide to Generative AI Skills in the Workplace. And what they found in this particular report was as much as 50% of employee work activities could be automated. So think about that. As much as 50% of work activities could be automated. I would say that's very true. They found 168% increase in productivity. And not only that, another one found not only were consultants both more productive, they produced better quality work. So it levels you up. That's what I find too. It levels me up. It gives me skills I didn't have. It gives me access to a legal assistant, to a property assistant, to a variety of assistants that I would not normally have, or I would have had to pay extensively to get their opinion. And 76% is the percent of employees already using it with or without company knowledge. That's a cautionary tale. People are using it. There are lots of people who are using it. If you're a small business leader and you have employees, there's a reasonably good chance that your employees are interested and using it, maybe even passing it off as their own work, which may or may not bother you. But this is my advice to you is get an AI policy. Reach out to me and I can help you develop one. Just like social media policies, you need to tell people how to use it, what's okay for them to use, what's not okay for them to use in your company in particular. It's another study. This one was with Microsoft, and they surveyed their own people. This came out just this month. They found that 70% were more productive. So think about that 30% is probably people who maybe don't need to use language in their work. Maybe they're hands-on. I don't think a roofer probably uses it as much. 29% said they were faster overall in a series of tasks, and nearly 4 times faster catching up on a missed meeting. So for example, particularly because this is baked into the suite with Copilot's baked into the Microsoft Office. If you pay for the to get AI in your suite, your Microsoft 365 or whatever you have, it can help you summarize meetings. You can either upload it or it will look directly at them and you can ask. Just like with your autopilot, you can capture all those insights and catch up much faster. 77% said they don't want to give it up. I think that there are people who are just not using it properly or just don't know how to use it or how to optimize it, and they're just not interested. So that 23% might be part of that 30% that weren't more productive. But of course, not all industries will be affected equally. Let's focus a little bit, the high opportunities up there, in particular healthcare. Lots of opportunities to make it more equitable healthcare, but there are biases. So there's some concerns, a regulated industry, but these others too, there's a lot of opportunity for ways to optimize. So when we're looking at this on the left, we're saying level of digitization in the industry. So if it's highly digitized or if it's mostly manual would be at the bottom. And the density of language to value proposition is how much are you actually using language in what you do. So if you'll see, they're safe for now. If you're manual, you're in landscaping, except for back office, you can definitely optimize back office workflows. But for the most part, those are safe. The immediate threat, it's surprising to me to still hear there are digital media companies that are not using it for writing in any way, shape, or form. Professional services people like myself, I see a threat. I'm a thought partner. And if I'm not learning about it, then I see my role could really be replaced. And it's surprising to me sometimes that people aren't using it to replace me. I'm expensive versus just, $20 walking through, spend some time to learn this. Same with financial services, education. There are lots of ways that these are being attacked right now. People in those roles need to be looking at, is my job at risk and how much do I need to learn? So this is my call to action for you. So let's spend a few minutes and just kind of get started. How would you set up your workspace? So pick your model. As we talked about, pick your LLM. I'm going to recommend ChatGPT as a place to start. ChatGPT free. Decide how you'll handle sensitive information and prep your custom instructions. Now we're getting a little bit more complicated. And if you don't have a paid version, you may not have access to some of this, but this is about data controls. And kind of getting a sense, just getting started. You can optimize if you handle some of these. I'm not sure, to be quite honest, whether the free version offers some of these data controls or not, because I've been on the paid version for so long. So you'll have to tell me. Getting started then, your tech stack. I have actually all of these and others as well. And I have them on my phone as well. They have both desktop and desktop and phone versions for iOS and Android. ChatGPT 4o, that's Omni from OpenAI, is my business workhorse. I use it for pretty much everything and I pay for it. But I encourage you, if you've not done it before, start with the free version. Same with Claude. Claude just came out with a really super fantastic 3.5 is Sonnet. These are changing rapidly, as I said, and it's highly capable, even more capable than ChatGPT 4. I do use it, but I use the free version right now. I will be upgrading soon, but it's, to me, the best for creative writing, and it's the friendliest. They also have an ethical manifesto, so they're a little bit more open about how they train their model. Perplexity is the best search engine. It's the Google killer. It provides you with citations and you can double check your citations. Fantastic. I encourage everyone to try it. I don't really use Google that much anymore. And again, I use the free version. It's good enough. I mentioned Copilot and Gemini. I have this one at the bottom because that's the one that I first started on and it had a lot more hallucination, but you now can get 4o from ChatGPT for free. So you get the most powerful model available for free. You just have limitations on how much data you can upload or how long a conversation you can hold. So talking about data controls, it's a little bit counterintuitive, but you go into settings and you can turn on or turn off the chat history and training. Today, it doesn't say, as of today, it doesn't say chat history and training, it's just train the model. So to turn on your data controls, which means not training the model, you have to turn off. So I turn off the training to turn on my data controls. So again, a little bit counterintuitive, but you can download your data, but you can at least protect it. If you're super concerned, a lot of the research I do is just basic out there kind of research. So I don't keep that on all the time, but when I'm working with a specific client, I make sure that I'm not training the model. The paid version, again, you have some limitations with ChatGPT. It will automatically delete, if you're not training the model, it will automatically delete your chats after 30 days. So you can download them, or you just copy and paste them into, say, a Word document or a Google Doc. Custom instructions, when I learned about this, it was mind-blowing. I had no idea that you could do this. This is also in your settings, and you're basically telling the LLM how to interact with you. So at the top part, it's about you, and then the bottom part is how do you want the GPT to behave, or how do you want it to give you information back? What you'll see on the right, that looks pretty much like what mine's filled in, of course, and it talks about a little bit about my job, what I do, where I come from, my budget or team size, my personal interests, and then the GPT, how I want it to respond. That's just a piece of it. You get 1,500 characters. This is actually what mine says, but there's more. Reach out to me if you want to see what those say. But it gives it an understanding of, like, for example, treat me as an expert. Don't talk to me like, unless I tell you differently, don't talk to me like I'm a third grader. Or refrain from disclaimers about not being a professional. Okay, I know that. You don't need to tell me that. So this will, every chat, when I have it turned on and I enable for all new chats, it will use those instructions in how it presents its information to me. Now let's talk a few minutes. This is a lot of data, right? This is a lot. I did numerous prompting classes of an hour apiece. I've got lots and lots of hours. Once you have I want to give you a basic understanding of the components. This will help you as you craft prompts. I spent a lot of time just learning how to do advanced prompting. So start with basic prompts. That's task description and context. And you can see what each of these building blocks are. As you get more focused and more experienced, dive into adding roles. That's the act as if, or act as a manager of a company, blah, blah, blah. And specific requirements would be, give me a bulleted list. It's specifically how I want you to behave in this particular instance. The comprehensive prompts really add more context. So boundaries would be the things to avoid. Don't give me a bulleted list, give me prose, or don't write it in a specific way, write it this way. And one of my favorites is to ask it to give me its reasoning. It's fantastic for telling you how it came to those conclusions. So for example, if it's brainstorming some ideas, I want to know, why did you choose those three? So I'll ask it to explain its reasoning, and that's all you have to say, and it knows what you mean. Now let's dive a little bit deeper into these. So here's some examples of basic but good prompts, right? Very straightforward, almost no requirements. Generate a catchy tagline for a sports drink that emphasizes it's. This was how I first interacted with it. Just a very simple, write an article where, I don't even remember, it was something about roofing, but just create an email subject line or write a LinkedIn post that summarizes blah, 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 or develop a meal plan for, you can see, very simple, very basic. When you're getting into more focused, you're adding a little bit more context. So look at example 1. As a project manager, I'm defining the role, the task, create a risk assessment for the upcoming software deployment. So now it has an understanding of what you're trying to achieve. To me, context is about setting the stage. It's about how much do you really, if you're talking to someone, how much do they need to know in order to do the job for you? And sometimes you tell them, that comes back incorrect, and then you have to say, oh no, I meant to give me, write it a little bit longer, or when it generates something for me, sometimes I will play with this. I'll start very simple, and then I'll add on in the conversation, oh no, I meant to, or shorten it to, or add 3 more bullet points, or dive deeper into, right? So that's how you're fine tuning your own conversation. Example 2, as a content marketer specializing in digital marketing, write an introduction, describes the blog post, and then the specific requirements, keeping it 5 to 6 sentences, for example. So now let's get into much more comprehensive prompts, much more complicated specifics, where you need to be, where fact checking and accuracy are really important. So that you can see these are long. I have some really, really long prompts. Prompting is an art, not a science, and there are prompt libraries everywhere. HubSpot has one. If you go to HubSpot and if you just go to Perplexity and ask for a prompt library, there are so many of these available. As I said, there's a great one at HubSpot. But so you can see it gives you way more boundaries around don't do this, and then explain your thinking behind. So it's adding components to it. So as you start thinking about it, now these are some examples that you can use. But again, I encourage you to go out and just search, see what some of those are. But first start playing with it, with the simple ways. See what you get back, which is more generic. And then as you fine tune it, it will get better. So we're coming to the end, and where you are now, you may feel like it's like, oh my God, there's so much language. Wait, do I need to know what natural language is? Do I need to understand Python? No. The key is to start small and a very specific task. Think about something in your business that you need to do or do regularly, and just start. Just ask a question about it. Spend only 15 minutes a day and make it a habit. There's an old adage that it takes 10 hours to master something. I think it takes more like 100 hours to master something, but you can get, before you move on from the basic or free version, if you've never used it before, I'd say spend 15 minutes a day playing with it. I challenge you to spend only 15 minutes a day, spend as long as you like, but at minimum, I use it every day, almost every day at least. And after 10 hours of experience with it, you'll have an understanding. Try each of them. Start with ChatGPT, try Claude, try Gemini, try Perplexity, see how they're different, make it a habit. You'll start to see a lot more use cases become available to you, and use cases, again, across the internet. And then after 10 hours, consider investing in a paid version. So you have a little bit more mastery now, a very high level understanding. I've just kind of blasted you with information, but climb your path, and you'll get there if you want to. So some resources here for you as I close this out. My blog, there's QR code. That's one way to reach me. Just go to my website. The Rundown is one of the newsletters that I read. I also read Ben's Bites for tutorials, great tutorials. But the Rundown is excellent, high-level news on what's going on in the industry, what things are changing. Section is the school that I went to and learned from. And one useful thing by Ethan Mollick is a Substack newsletter. He's amazing. He's a Wharton professor. He's one that I will use as an example. Act as if you're Ethan Mollick, because he gives you an idea of the changes. It's just a great newsletter. He talks very practically. The State of AI is a 500-page document, but it came out, I think, in April or May. It's pretty all-encompassing. It gives you a lot of data on where we are, what things are. But I encourage you to look at Section. If you reach out to me, there's my email address. Reach out to me and I can probably get you, they were offering a special on $200 off of a 1-year subscription, which is $1,000. I can get you for $800. And again, you can take any course that they offer for a year. So that's what I did in the last 6 months. I've taken 15 certifications. And like I said, I'm taking even more. Are there any questions? And I think Should I stop sharing here? Are there any
No,
questions?
I would leave that up so they can see some of those QR codes.
Okay,
Real quick for everybody, the slide deck will be included with the recording. It'll be in the content library tomorrow, so if the QR codes aren't working off your screen right now, you can pull that up tomorrow and then expand it and scan it. But we have a couple questions that'll tie in and probably take us to the end. One was, are there some small mini courses that can help introduce you to various searches? Or I guess prompts, maybe, some mini courses.
prompts. You know, Udemy, Microsoft has some free resources. I don't have those exact links, but I know that Microsoft offers courses. I also saw some, so Udemy offers low cost. Like I think I paid $14 for an 8-hour course. So you can get some low cost ones. Go to YouTube, and just again searching on those. But YouTube there's a lot of people that are offering this kind of information. HubSpot is amazing because they offer CRM for small businesses. They have so many resources. Just sign up for them. I download all of them. I probably have 10 or 15 of them, including prompt library, how to get started, what's an LLM, kind of some basics. Section has some free services as well. If you get into if you subscribe to the Rundown, it's a free newsletter and they offer resources as well. But also Coursera. So there are really a ton of ways today to get it, and it's going to be a little bit jiggy-jaggy, I guess, as you begin looking. But again, I would start with HubSpot. See what's available at HubSpot because it's totally free.
Well, thank you. And then we had a question about Udemy, and I want to clarify it spelled the letter U-D-E-M-Y.
Yes.
So it's, again, that's U-D-E-M-Y for Udemy.
Yeah. Andrew Ng, I think it's Andrew Ng, which is NG. He apparently has a very, very popular course. If you just Google him and you'll Google his name, Andrew Ng and AI, and you'll see his course. And I think it's free.
Okay. And then we have another one that says, what tools and recommendations can you share about building an automated AI workflow, such as with Microsoft Power Automate or Make?
So so getting into tools is more complicated. That is a changing landscape on a daily basis. The Rundown is awesome. They have a super tools, and it's free. You can go to super tools, search on tools for workflows, for example. But it's really about, I mean, that's another whole conversation. I actually have given presentation on how to optimize, accelerate, or transform your organization through automating your workflows. Specific tools, there are tools out there. I would start at super tools, but most of what people are doing today is just using ChatGPT. There are things called GPTs. I don't want to get too technical here, but you have access to GPTs, which are little mini programs that can help you walk through. Once you get into ChatGPT, look over on the left in your menu and you'll see Explore GPTs, and you can search based on the specific kind of workflow that you want to automate. So maybe it's just writing documents. Maybe it's a repetitive one, but most people are working with another person, or they're spending a lot of time like a consultant, or they're spending a lot of time learning about ChatGPT and its capabilities, and they're automating them themselves by creating a custom GPT for their workflow, which just looks at, I mean, it's kind of like Visio. Think through the workflow first, then look at it and see which of these in my workflow, in this particular task that I do every day, such as writing a contract or whatever it is, or building a sales presentation, think through each one of those, or even just ask ChatGPT, how do I automate a workflow? And it will give you an example of how to do it.
Excellent, thank you. And then we had a quick question. If you could just retouch on this, I know you mentioned it, but what's the difference between ChatGPT 4.0 and ChatGPT 4?
So ChatGPT 4 is now, I think it's now gone. I still have it because I have some conversations when it was 3.5, 4. Just 4, and now 4.0. 4.0, which is Omni, is if you go to ChatGPT today, you will have access in the free version to 4 Omni. The difference was their capabilities. I wouldn't worry about, I probably should pull that from my slide. I presented it because that was the old model that was the top level, but it's been I think it's been 3 or 4 weeks now that they've had 4 Omni available to you, which is extremely powerful. It's it's one of the most powerful, except for what Claude just came out with what Anthropic just came out with 3.5. That's now the most capable model. And they each have different specialties. They each have different personalities and abilities. So for example, I use Microsoft to design, but Canva has some of that stuff baked in has some AI baked in for free. And if you're using Canva, use it. Their Notion has some great tools as well. They've added Notion AI. So a lot of companies, Salesforce, HubSpot, they're baking AI into their solution. So the next time you go in, you'll see you have new capabilities. You just have to learn how to use them.
Excellent. And then we have another question that says, do you recommend any of the AI for use in education?
Say that one again.
Do you have any recommendations for an AI to use for education?
Well, so it depends on what you mean about education. Again, start with ChatGPT or Claude. In education, depends on, like, are you an administrator? It depends on your role. If you're an educator, you can help it create lesson plans. If you're an administrator, you can look at what your workflows are. That's not, necessarily interpersonal, but maybe you have to write speeches or something, or presentations. It can help you if you have digital, I suppose if you have digital documents, it can help you evaluate. If you could build a custom GPT, again, that's a whole other course on how to build a no-code bot. But it really just depends in education. If it's your children or if you're a tutor, it can help tutor your children. It has language capabilities, so it can translate. If you're learning French, it can help walk you through learning French, for example. So really, again, it just depends on what your role is and what you want it to do. But I always say, start with the basics, start with the LLMs, get familiar with them, and then you'll see some of their capabilities. Then start diving into your specifics around your particular specialty.
All right, excellent. We are right at time. We're going to wrap up here in just a few seconds, but Wendy, thank you. That was a great presentation, a lot of great resources and information. I like the little boxes on how to create the prompts and work your way through getting to more in-depth prompts. That was a cool way of sharing that. So that was, I really like that. Appreciate it. Thank you all for attending and asking some great questions. We hope this was valuable to you. Feel free to reach out in the, you can post in the chat real quick, or you can reach out to us directly. We're always looking for feedback from our attendees on things you might want to learn about on the boot camp. So feel free to share that with us. But we want to thank you for being with us today. Just a reminder, we do not have a boot camp next Tuesday on July 2nd, but we will pick back up on July 9th. So we hope that all of you have a great Independence Day holiday week, and we will see you the following. Until then, have a great week this week. We'll see you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.